how many seconds of the reader's attention time can you have? So just share with your table quickly. How many seconds before people stop reading?
Yeah.
3 to 5 seconds? Yep. This is a quick study. This is a very quick study. Or the end of line 2. So if you're in that writer's thought that says I need to build a case first, and I need to put the, the bottom line at the bottom, where it's belong, that's where conclusions go, right? If that's your thought in these 3 to 5 seconds, it ain't gonna happen. So you could make a note, put what you want to get done in 3 to 5 seconds. Readers will appreciate that. But writers have a whole different way of thinking about it. Different plan. We know that people often read next to a wastebasket, recycle bin, delete key. Some of you look at who is sending you the email and you don't even open it. Right? Some of you have auto-file for certain people. How many of you do that? You get an email, you don't open everything, do you? No. We do some sort of sorting. We know that people often view the in-basket as an interruption to their day. So if you have 200 emails, the initial thought is not how loved you are, although that might be true. But it's somewhat of a stressful situation. You've got to read all those. And finally, we know that people often read between meetings and phone calls. And it's not so much between, but it's what? Absolutely. So when people read what you send them, they're usually multitasking. They're giving it very shallow attention, not all the time, but some of the time. And so it's critical that we're on task. So what are the 3 things that readers want to know? What are the 3 things you want to know when you pick up an email to read? What's the first thing you want to know? What do you want me to do? What's your agenda with me? Do I have to do something? And this would be paragraph 1, what to do. What do you want me to do? And then you would like to know why or how. What are the key points? And that would be in paragraph 2 of this 3-paragraph model. And then finally, if you have to do something, what do you want to know about it? When? You'd like to know when. And that's paragraph 3. So the difference between academic writing and journalism and all those literature and business would be what? What separates business writing from all other kinds of writing? It's about doing. So if you would, please circle the do piece. What to do, why to do it, and when to do it. And make a note that if you don't give people a deadline, what do? They do nothing, right? So most people, a lot of people talk about deadlines like your prompt attention to this man is greatly appreciated. Have you ever used that one? Those kinds of things? So who needs to be met with those closing paragraphs? If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Whose needs are being met, the reader or the writer? And what's the need? It would be an exit strategy for rambling roads. So you're taking yourself on your journey of discovery. You finally get down on what you want the reader to do. You state that. It's time to go have a latte. And so you need an exit strategy. So we use some of those cliches. And if you bail on your readers with those closing cliches, they will return the favor and bail on you. Because they need something specific. So how many of you are thinking, how do I give my boss's boss a deadline? That thought I know is out there. How do you give your boss's boss a deadline? Careful. But you give everyone a deadline carefully, yes? Yes.
They think that he thought of it.
Or she. Absolutely.
Or just be how it affects him or the business or her? Or...
Absolutely. You got, oh, what's that?
How much it costs if you don't do it?
Absolutely. Give a deadline and a reason for the deadline. Absolutely. These are things that you need to clarify. And once you clarify the content, you're ready to write it. Absolutely. So a visual of a reader would look like this. Have you ever felt this way? How many of you feel this way today? You don't have time to be here. Even though it's a great conference, many people, we do things with stress. A lot of things going on. This could be the reader that you're writing to. So when you write to this person, you've got to be very, very deliberate. Let's contrast page 2 with page 3, which is a totally different idea. Writers feel compelled to build a case before drawing conclusions, recommending solutions, and requesting action. So how would readers want the writers to change this method of development? We need to flip it. And then what else? This stuff should be paragraph 1, yes? What paragraph would this be? Paragraph 2, absolutely. And then what's missing? The deadline. So writers have it upside down and incomplete, for the most part. Because this is not taught. This is not how to write essays. This is not how to write book reports. This is not how to write journalism. This is not how to write dissertations. This is not how to write stories. This is business. This is different. So continuing, writers feel compelled to put background on paragraph 1. And there's 4 reasons. If you would just put a check next to these 4 reasons. 1, thinks the reader needs it. And just check those other 3 and see if these are things you think about. Why we put background first. Next to this guy, if you would just make a note, background of paragraph 1 confuses my reader. And that's always true. You write technical things to non-techies. If you think that you need to bring the reader up to speed for them to understand your conclusion, by having that thought, you confuse them right away. And they're confused until they know what to do. That's absolutely true. But there's other reasons why we tend to begin with background. You might have been taught introduction, body, conclusion. But the idea of conclusions ought to go at the end because that's where we go. And this is just the way writers think about it. So the question is, can you find yourself on page 2 and page 3? And if you do, what's the takeaway? So if you would talk to them. 45 seconds. Do you find yourself on page 2 and 3 in the survey?
That's what I say. It's when we're warming up. There seems exactly. There seems to be.
So,
I'm not a big rambler.
Great idea in this front table, great idea. What do you do with this if you're writing upper management? There's a protocol. Do you tell, request, ask your boss for authorization for funding in paragraph 1, 2, 3, or sometime later on? Where do you put it? Where do you folks put it normally? Because if you're normal, you hide it. You put it at the bottom. Make your boss work for it, right? You gotta work for it, let them work for it. But there's this sense that out of out of respect, maybe fear, that you put that request for funding at the bottom. That's a very natural thought. Where does that thought reside? In your mind that reads or the mind that writes? It would be the writer's thought. What would the reader part of that mind say? Tell me, if you want an authorization for $1.5 million, elevator speech. Be upfront. So, would this be a big change or a small change? In the way most people do it, it'd be a big change. The more technical you are, and the more non-techy your readers are, the more paramount it is to use this model. Because if you try and bring a non-techie up to speed with your jargon and knowledge, what would those non-techies say to you? If they could actually speak to you. They knock it off, please. You've got the technology, so you run with it. Just tell me, how does this affect me? And then explain it. So the takeaway of looking at these two pieces, of course, would be that you know you have very strong thoughts that are in conflict. One from a reader's point of view, and one from a writer's point of view. So when you write, you've got to put that writer's ego aside. That's not easy to do. So imagine that you walk up to your boss, you're sharing some information with your boss stops you in mid-thought and says, look, there's a number of initiatives coming to a head, so send me a proposal on this idea. So you go back to your work area and you begin to think this through. You begin with the background of the problem. The background might be that a process that you've been using very well for years is now problematic. So you begin to define in your analysis what's the problem, what are the causes of the problem, what are some ways of mitigating the causes, and at some point you come up with some recommended solution. And this is how we become clear. This is a thinking process, and this is also, unfortunately for the readers, the academic model that most businesses bring into corporations. What we need to do with this is invert this. We need to begin with paragraph 1, identify what the recommended solution is, and then support it, and then give some history at the end. So the difference between the thinking process and the reporting process. It's common sense, but often not common practice. So at the bottom of this page, if you would, please write down 2 thoughts. Number 1, a good thinking process is rarely a good reporting process. A good thinking process is rarely a good reporting process. Because it's too confusing and it's too time consuming. It's a long, difficult road for clarity. Readers do not want to go on a journey of discovery. The other idea would be that a good reporting process must begin with the bottom line of your thinking process. And this is true with everything. It's true with the way you frame your ideas in a meeting, how you leave a voice message, how you write an email, how you write a proposal. And you might not have heard of the inverted pyramid principle, but you've all heard of cut to the chase. What's your bottom line? What are your key points? Okay. So, these are the 2 images of the process. Round rows, the process of the masses, where you type as you think it through. And this is what we do to people. We paragraph them. So you could go back to your documents and just look at the way you paragraph these things. One paragraph after another paragraph. And what you could expect to find is that paragraph 1 is usually background. There's probably a hidden list of key points buried among paragraphs. Purpose is buried in the most difficult to find place. And there's few transition time that goes together. That would be the outcome of round and rows. Let's look at another way of doing that. 3 models. And this would be in your last page, page 6 of your document. We're going to take an example I believe, on page 5. And we're going to rewrite it in each of these 3 models. And when we do Rhyme and Rose, we play the game of let the readers figure it out. So looking at page 5, at this document, to see if you've learned anything at this point, please write down or just share with your learning buddy what are the 3 questions you want answered when you pick up any document on the job. Let's just do a 60-second test here. The test is for getting there. Excellent. Very good. Question number 1, what does the writer want me to do?
It's all there.
Number 2, list the reasons. And number 3, the deadline. When you want me to do it. So this is classic Rhyme and Rose. You can see this. I see this wherever I go. This is shorter than a lot of them, but this is basically it. All the content is here. It's just not accessible. So what does the writer want us to do? So if you would circle that. Is it easy to find? No. Why is it not easy to find? We have 8 minutes? Okay. It's not easy to find because it's in 2 places. Yes? Were any of you confused by this opening paragraph? And you kind of wonder, how many of you stopped reading at the end of line 2? How many continue reading beyond line 2 but you're thinking of something else? And how many of you didn't even look at this? You looked at it and you said, not me, not now, okay? So what is this opening paragraph? So the writer, this is self-taught. I've been examining the need for this stuff. I better get my act together so we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And then the writer says, hey, I like this idea. So we put it down here, open the paragraph 2. We have a couple of reasons. No deadline. Forecasted subject line simply announces. And the last thing we'll do before we're done is we'll take a look at this and we'll rewrite in each of these 3 models. So these are not in your handout, but the models are. And visually you can see that model 1 and model 2 are exactly the same opening, closing paragraphs. The only difference is that in model 2 you have a list. Sometimes you have a list, sometimes you don't. And in model 3, when you have 4 more paragraphs, name the content of the paragraph with the heading. So let's look at what the rewrite would look like with model 1. And again, unfortunately, this is not in your handout because we're trying to keep it relatively short. But we have this forecasting subject line, where you not only ask for the funding up in that opening paragraph, but you ask it up in the subject line. Request for approval. You tell the readers how this will affect them. And many of your emails are requesting things, so this is a classic forecasting subject line. Paragraph 1, give more detail. Paragraph 2, some background, simple explanation. Paragraph 3, a deadline and a reason for the deadline. Does this feel abrupt or demanding or pushy? How many say it does? Because I heard some yeses. So the question would be, what makes it feel that way? Minnesota nice takes over. This is a reader-centered model, not a writer-centered. So what would a lot of writers want to do with this? 2 fundamental changes. Begin with paragraph 2.
Or begin with, hi, how are you? How's the weather?
That's cool as long as this is sentence 2. But what most people want to do is begin with background, and then what do people want to do with deadlines? Forget them.
Let's not talk about it.
Forget them. They cause too much stress. You've got to think it through for one thing. I mean, think it's not easy. So this is model 1, model 2, same opening paragraph, same forecast, and subject line, same closing paragraph, but we have a list. We have a list of reasons. So a lot of you like to do bullets. Bullets go into paragraph 2. And then if you want to include that paragraph with alternatives, you would, in Model 3, you would add that fourth paragraph. Same subject line, same opening paragraph. Options, same rationale, and on the next page, same paragraph. So this is the way you manage your boss and your team. So, questions, comments? I think we have 5 minutes. That cheesecake was awesome. With your learning buddy, if you would, will this be easy or difficult to do? And if it's difficult, what will be the major hurdles? So talk to each other. Will this be difficult or easy to use when you go back to write? So talk to each other.
Depends on, I mean, in our corporation, we have to, I mean, you have to have a business reason for everything. So you have to